All right, so today we're going to show how do you use the HAPAX to create some really interesting bass lines or grooves with just using MIDI effects. So this is the sound we're working with today. Very kind of a cool envelope bass sound on the virus. And here's what we're going to do. We're not going to do anything fancy with notes. We're going to draw a single line of notes all the way, or 16th notes all the way across one bar. All right. Let's bring it down a little bit. So that's what we're working with. Now, first thing we're going to put on is a scalar. So the scalar right now, that didn't change the sound at all. It's the last MIDI effect. It did get applied sequentially from the first one to the last one here. So the scalar is going to be always the last thing to make sure whatever random note we generate, it will squash it down back into the project scale. So everything should sound harmonious together. All right. So the first thing we're going to play with is swing. Listen to this. All right, a little bit of swing immediately gives it a bit of that groove, right? Now, what do we want to do to change the pattern is we can use a chance, a probability of notes getting through. So right now it's 100%, every note gets played. Let's lower it. Right, immediately it becomes groovy. That's cool, but every note is still the same note. How do we vary that? A couple different ways. Before we hit the chance block, right, we're gonna create a random block here. So the random block is gonna, there's a bunch of different settings for it, but let's just play with the octave. So we're gonna just randomize the octave. So what happens is basically each of the 16th notes, it first chooses, is it gonna play the original octave or bring it down one? Then it hits the chance, so it decides, is it gonna play that note or not? Then it applies the swing, and then it squashes it through the scalar to the octave, the scale that the project is set to. Now it's still technically the same note, just one octave lower than the original. So let's see what variants we can introduce to this groove. The random also has note plus, note minus. So let's introduce additional notes. Now, what if we wanted to automate this, right? So we can do that with the mod matrix. So check this out. So one of the sources will be the fill button. The destination for that will be the note minus, which is the parameter we were tweaking. And here we're gonna set the depth. So we don't want it to be all over the place. We just want it to go up a little bit. Now let's take a look. If we go back here, if I press fill, you'll see the note minus change. Now you see it doesn't go back down to 0, and that is because we set the polarity to plus minus. So set it to plus, go back here. So it jumps a certain amount, the depth, it goes back to 0. So this is useful because it works well with this fill button in general. If you assign drums or other patterns to play when you press the fill, it can also create these MIDI effects and trigger them. And then you go back to home base. And then if I want to go faster, right, I can just increase the chance. Okay, so instead of using random to create a variance in the note, let's mute that. I can also use the Euclidean sequence generator. Right, so here's my pulses. And they're still going through the chance, so that's why they're not as you would expect them to be, right, every four steps, or every bar basically. So here we go. So let's make them more rapid. So now we basically are stacking a Euclidean sequence generator on top of a chance or probability of that note. But it still plays the same note, so how can we vary it? Well, Euclid also has a note, right? So right now it's playing the input note, which is the same note, but we can automate that. So let's wire it up as well in the mod matrix. So let's go to another source. Now let's use the project LFO this time. And destination will be my Euclidean sequence note. Okay, so let's lower the depth here. And all of a sudden we get a bit more movement. And you can see, I mean, the note here is just scrolling all over the place based on that sine LFO and the rate and the depth that we set, so you can customize that. But you can start then tweaking with other parameters like the steps and the pulses. And if that's too crazy, we can slow it down. Make the depth smaller so the note changes are not as drastic. Now again, if that's too fast, right, how do we slow it down? Right, we can give it more steps, less pulses. Or we can go to chance and lower the chance. And so here we go. A couple of different MIDI effects stacked together. And by the way, you can stack the random before or after the Euclidean sequence. So let's try that. So what's happening now is we have the Euclidean sequence generator that has that note variability modulated by the LFO, right? Those notes are hitting the random sequence generator. So for each of those notes, we also randomize the octave. And then we also have the fill button, which we can then introduce even more variability. And then on top of that, we selectively choose every 50% chance that each note will be played. So yeah, that's it. I mean, really using only 2 or 3 different, 3 really effects here: Euclid, random, and chance, on top of the same note, and you have so much variability, so much performance capability, and yeah, it's super awesome. So if you liked it, let me know, and stay tuned for more HAPAX videos.